There is only one idea. Even my use of the word idea is suspect. But it has, we can talk, I can't say what it is, but we can talk about its properties. So it has a property of being all mathematics. It has a property of being the quality of oneness. It fits the description of love. What we imagine by the word love is about relationships. This isn't about relationships. This is just love manifesting. It's not always an easy idea to grasp, that some ideas are totally abstract and difficult to explain in finite terms, except by example. Absolute love is virtually the same as truth. Love only sees truth. And this is why it can be so inconvenient at times. So, right. Because nothing is concealed from truth, from in absolute consciousness. One of the ways we could indicate the idea of love is by saying it is the imperative or desire that for things that eventually are apart to come together, for oneness to goes into separation, and it is love that draws it back to oneness, and that is the motivating force behind everything that happens, which is possibly hard to believe when you're living on planet Earth, but it's a complicated illusion. But so the return to oneness is an aspect of this one idea, mysterious idea. Now, oneness is a subjective idea. It is an aspect of meaning. It's in a sense, it's like a unit of meaning. There is a fundamental meaning for that one unit of being one. Now, one can't have on the face of it a relationship with itself, because if it's oneness, there can't be anything outside the oneness. So the oneness hasn't got anybody to talk to. It is itself. With just being itself, being, in fact, having one particular property, the idea of reality to itself is real. And existence, that's another aspect of it, the idea of existence. Because I'm using human language, it's the only one I know, it's hard for me, my infinite feeling of it, the idea, to put it into words. So it gets a little bit tricky. One of its aspects is unity. Supposing we didn't just have oneness. Supposing there was the number 2. If one had another version of itself, so how could it do that? Well, in a mirror of consciousness. It's one pretending to be many. Basically, this idea has possibilities. One being many, it's the number 2 that's made this possible, because the quality of two-ness is by definition separation. And of course, number 2 is the only even prime. So that's important. So in the end, we've got all the numbers from 1 to infinity. The oneness could form relationships within itself of other infinite abstract qualities, which is basically what everything is made of, if it can find what I'd call context. If the oneness could explore potential relationships between the abstract meaning of all the numbers from infinity back to infinity, it can do a lot. Right. Anyway, just dug myself a little hole here, trying to remember where I was. Where was I going? Take the helm, number one. Engage. With numbers, we have all this meaning, the meaning of numbers, potentially, but they don't actually exist because there's only oneness. So even for oneness to feel itself two, how can it do it? Well, there is an answer, folks. It's the value of numbers, which is, of course, the end of numbers, the only end of numbers that we know. We don't know how to work with infinite, essence, but we are it. That's what we are, infinite essence. Reducing itself to a pattern of numbers in order to discover what it is and find the potential within it to exist and to be something. So, well, where did we go wrong? This is what I want to know. Anyway, never mind that. It's hard being a creator when you're trying to work out how you do it, isn't it? Because that's what we all are. But this is the knowledge that's been hidden from us, and somehow or other it's just, anyway, this is it. I think, I don't know, big statement, why not? Right, so there we are. We've got the oneness with this property of manyness, all this ness business. It's not an state of existence. It's just some totally nebulous abstract quality of meaning. But numbers is a way of rationalizing infinite kind of, stuff. But the problem for all of this is the oneness is for all that to make sense. Because that's what it's trying to do. It's trying to find the sense of what it is. Sense, sensation, logic, straightforward meaning, things like that. Yeah, that makes sense. Right. So something step needs to be taken to translate all this potential essence and mishmash of nothingness and, not nothingness, but everything, all possible ideas. Well, I suppose nothingness might be as an abstract idea. But you see, the problem with all these abstractions is that they can't themselves do anything. Because doing, their job is being. Just being. What can you do when you're just being, you see? Bit of a snag. So there you go. So what you do is you go to being. Existence is another one. Can the idea of existence itself exist? Well, the idea, of course, is no. So it can only have any form of we won't know what manifestation. It's too vague at this stage, but it can only have existence by existing as something. So if you're looking at oneness as the baseline, the basic idea, it can imagine itself as two-ness, three-ness, four-ness, five-ness, six-ness, and so on, by using the value possibilities in abstraction. So oneness has the potential to become nothingness. But there is something interesting about that, because nothingness in the sense of non-existence, shall we say, cannot be a part of the oneness. It's illogical, irrational, something like that. I won't say political, but this is a powerful idea. This gives rise to these numerical oneness, two-ness, three-ness, four-ness, have implications within them for more finite, I don't think more finite, anyway, ideas, particular, singular. The word I'm looking for is singular, a singular counterpart in ideas or concepts. And this is how the idea of existence came into being, by oneness becoming somethingness, a number. Now, in the mirror of consciousness, of course, things implicate one another. So the idea of oneness implicates nothingness, and zero, that's the counterpart of one, is zero. Now, zero is a number, but nothingness cannot be within existence, within somethingness. So, but don't worry, we found the answer. Nothingness is, if it can't be experienced directly, all the other qualities of all the other numbers from one upwards to infinity, they can. So they can be experienced, they can be felt, because in the infinite state of oneness, what can happen is, because it's all about the idea of sensation, sensation can be constructed and assembled from the infinite qualities of numbers by organizing a mathematically based program that operates using 0 and 1 as binary mathematics in order to use the difference in state between 1 and 0 as, well, we know, something to play with, basically, something with which to construct everything. So here it all is, and it's all based on this binary idea. So the binary idea is the key to creating the idea. But the difference between things in oneness and things in nothingness, the zero, like as a number, as a value, has meaning in the light, in the oneness, in the absolute consciousness, because it's no different from any other number as a number. It's only when you are the quality of oneness that you can't be also in the somethingness, in the everything. So, but things created from zeros by ones, it's basically total, every possibility of thought existence, everything that comes within the scope of what we could call mathematical systems. There is like a network or a chain of processes of consciousness using noughts and ones, but relating to all the numbers by what we can call context. So concepts manifest and exist in something we can call context, which is creating experience, basically. This is how experience comes into being. It's like using numbers to organize the abstract essential qualities inherent in all number. I say number because there is only one number, the number one, but by using a totally abstract program running somewhere in the unconscious state isn't within the one. It's outside the one. But because the oneness cannot have anything by definition of what it is, there can be nothing else. And if nothingness is external to oneness, this is a complete paradox. The thing about paradoxes is that they seem to go, round and round. Washing machines and all the stuff comes out of them and goes in them, and it's like, goes to the life goes into the cleaner's state and then comes back out again to be reused. It's all based on units of one, finite one. So we can call it a finite one. Value. That's the important thing, value. Yeah, so the infinite state revolves around meaning and sensation. These are aspects of existence, and existence has to fulfill its desire to be existence, which it can only do by existing as something or other. I am that I am. The human organism, for example, is really an assembly where zeros are like bubbles of space, based on something called the Riemann sphere, which has zero at one end and infinity at the other. And these all organise themselves, and according to which way they turn, a bit look like a compass going about, they form lines. This is what we call the linear dimension. But this is inherent with all the distribution of zeros. Spheres of zero, basically asleep. Right? So dark spheres of nothingness being organised into what we call space. They emerge as ideas. They're structured around ones, units of light. And units of light are outposts, if you like, or emissaries from the oneness. And they take the form of a prime number. Prime number has the property of unit existence. It doesn't vibrate off into its factors. It keeps whole, you see. So it has an essence and a value, and that value becomes point of light in the darkness. What happens is it structures space in the form of untold trillions of zeros. This is all on the Planck scale, so it's very small. That's it. You create your space. We won't go too much into time, but the problem is with all of this is if you're going to start making things happen, creating things to experience, you see, because it's the problem for the infinite is nothing ever happens. So they're dull, you see. But if you can use properties of finite numbers and organize them in such a way that you extract from the interconnections and the networking between them, you can extract the meaning aspect, while the numbers are the value aspect. You see, so the meaning, and you're the meaning, but your body is the value aspect of you. That's why it's not infinite light. You see, you're infinite light, but by choosing a set of numbers, you've created a finite set of numbers, of values, and you're plugging them in to a universe made of numbers. This is a hierarchy. It's not a hierarchy in the sense of, we know hierarchies go from down here to up there. This is a hierarchy of inside and outside. So what it is that ideas that in the form of numbers assemble themselves internally and externally in a purely conceptual level, mathematical level, that translates into a purely sort of meaning-based feeling experience. Bingo, you're here looking at this video. This is how it comes about, you see. And the reason we're in something of a state, the story is too vast to go into much more. It's probably going to be a bit hard to follow. I don't know. How does the infinite oneness use all these numbers in these networks and interconnections? Well, basically what the numbers do, you see, that say you've got a number 5 and its quality is fiveness. The only real number is 1. So we're talking about hypothetical numbers. The whole thing about thought is it doesn't exist. It's infinite, but it creates itself by convincing itself it is numbers, number values, when it is really number meaning. But you see, the one wants to think of itself as being a value, portray it as a field of light, and then you've got a state of dark, shadow. It becomes itself in finite form, purely hypothetically, not as a reality, but it does it by it transcribing the quality of oneness into the finite value of 1, and then making multiple versions of itself, and then all the numbers thus created in potential back to infinity again, full circle. They form all these patterns of meaning. The way all of that gets pulled together is by a story. You've got to be able to pull it together somehow. Taking numbers and then trying to find meaning in context. The numbers are trying to find context in order to establish their existence in the infinite mind, if you like. The infinite mind is sort of made up of all this stuff about context and acquiring conceptual meaning through context. And the context is us here. This is that we're in a context here. We're creating this substantial physical state from all these numbers. It's such a vast, mind-bogglingly complicated business, but it's not complicated underneath. Right, so there we are. So that's how it's done. It's all a story. Let's hope our story's going to get a bit better. It'd be nice, wouldn't it? But the thing is, all of this stuff doesn't exist. It's all the power of implication. You see, it's oneness implies nothingness, which is not one. So 0 is just not one. So it's the absence of something that creates existence. So the absence of everything allows one to be part of a substantial rationality, logicality, that makes it all possible. There was a point I was going to try to make when I started all this. I've completely forgotten what it was. I just remembered that I think I should have given more emphasis to nothingness, the shadow. We call it the shadow because it's not light, basically. So zeros are not something. So it makes sense for space to be made up of spheres of 0 that are not one. See, not because you can knit a space from it like concrete in a mold, and the mold is fractal mathematics, basically. So it, you start it off on the inside, and it expands and off into dimensions, and drawing in the meaning of numbers and playing with the values of numbers to create all existence. But the point about nothingness is that the state we are in the here, in this earth at the moment, is virtually all space, all nothing. And nothing experiences itself as being asleep. Because it's nothing. It's the potential finite, if you like. That's a contradiction, but a paradox. But the finite version of nothing is zero. Nothingness is zero. So if nothing has this quality that's zero as a number, and nothingness as being basically asleep, unconscious, that's what gives rise to this manifesting idea of unconsciousness, the unconscious. It doesn't exist, and yet it's everything. We are points of light. We are tiny units of oneness. On a first descent, we are number values. On the bottom of the ladder, we are numbers aggregated into stories. So there are numbers recording experience, and there are numbers creating experience. And in terms of value, I get feelings for how it all works, but I don't know the history of it all. I mean, that'd be a bit too much to expect to have all that as well. It's my excuse anyway. But it all looks like it relates to what we call human history, or that great myth that they hold over us to keep us under control by convincing us that we're really here. It's called economics. But anyway, at the top level, you've got to coordinate in some way the way all the events are created from points of light in this construct of space, all based on 0 and 1, which as concepts there can only be one. But by creating this abstract concept of not 1, 0, and the mathematical qualities, and of course the Riemann zeta function, which takes prime numbers, the factors of existence, and converts them, it can locate zeros where they need to be to create space and time. All this works to the point where you take the story of each part. So there's a story of being an atom. There's a story of being a molecule, of being somebody's knee. So on every layer, conceptual layer, sort of like, atoms jiggling around to cells sorting themselves out. Yeah, well, let's not get into DNA, and the mathematics of it all is so complicated. I don't know. I'm not a mathematician. Probably you, good thing, I should think. Let's take then the human as a unit, as a character in a role in this manifestation created from value consciousness, we'll call it. If we switched the other side of the equation of the number concept, we'd be in the experience, the subjective reality, as opposed to the objective reality. This is the objective. That's the subjective, is the infinite oneness manifesting itself as in a dream state. So we are dreams in oneness. But it's the way we've come to use nothingness, which is basically being asleep. All the shadow, all the space, basically asleep. Everything's asleep. It's zero. The quality of zero is nothingness. which doesn't actually exist. But how useful it is. Here we are, taking advantage of an illusion and fractal mathematics to create ourselves and be here. Give us a bonus. And we do it all the time because there is only one number. There's one universe. Or one, no, there's there's infinite possible dimensions, which is basically numbers with infinite values and infinite meanings. We've hardly started. There's so much more that could be learned, but I mean, I couldn't tell you how far we've gone. From our point of view, the dimension that we're on, we've manifested it as human experience, and this is using certain basic numbers, and those numbers have certain meanings. What we are doing is contributing to the qualities of numbers. Every manifestation of fiveness, as I said, which say could be 5 people, or 5 pigeons, 5 trees, anything, 5 planets, any relationship whatsoever that involves 5 ones in different roles in relationships will add a new meaning to the quality of 5 and fiveness. So the network of numbers and their meanings manifesting in as experience, which is then assembled but mathematically into day-to-day existence from our point of view. That's what it does. That's how it works. At least I think so. It makes sense to me anyway. God, I hope it does somebody else. Anyway, that's enough for now, I think. Yes, might need to break that down into parts, like everything is. That quantum effects, digitized and don't go on. Stop. Goodbye.